It's time to engage Infravision. Take 2, because we did not get that first recording in, but that's okay.
It's so nice we're trying it twice.
It's the next episode of Drizzt Done Right, the podcast all about our favorite Drow, Drizzt Do'Urden. My name is Justin, and in this episode we'll be diving deep into Chapter 15 of Homeland, titled On the Dark Side, which, sounds like a Star Wars reference there. But
or a Pink Floyd album.
Oh, yeah, Dark Side, yeah. We'll be discussing all of our favorite plot points, characters, and more.
And my name is Jeffrey. You guys know we're huge fans of Dungeons & Dragons, so we're also going to be taking a look at this chapter and how it's going to relate to the D&D 5e game that we play and we're familiar with. We're going to look at some of the similarities and differences that can be found between page and game.
Cool. So following along with the show is easy. Just grab a copy of the book, read the next chapter, and tune in every week. But remember, we want to hear your thoughts too. So make sure to share your favorite parts of the chapter with us via email at drizztdoneright@gmail.com.
Or better yet, you guys might know that there's this little Discord channel that's growing. You might have heard us mention before, the Drizzt Done Right Discord. Surely you've noticed the link. It's at the end of the episode description, right there on the before you press play. It's actually right above that little link that says support the show.
Right there.
No? Oh, boy, if you have missed that, then you have missed a lot. The Dim Light Squad is our members who have gone beyond the page. Just this week, we welcomed Liquid Swords, Gothic Goddess, and my buddy Elder Trolls. This week, we were discussing the hook horrors from last week. What they might sound like. Since they hunt with echolocation, would they sound like the Predator? All this clicks.
Ooh.
I can't make a good Predator sound. I just tried it, and my mandible is not where it needs to be. But Ramsey shared a video of a shoebill storkbird. Did you see that on the Discord?
Yeah, that thing is so... Birds are only supposed to be so big.
Yeah, and it's not even just the size of the bird; it's the menacing look of it. Like we were, it's that little Pokemon with the skull on his head.
Yeah, the Cubone.
Yes, yeah. It's just it looks unnatural. That thing is a dinosaur. When they say that dinosaurs have evolved into birds, like pterodactyls, I always thought, but raptors. I see raptors when I see those claws, the talons.
Totally. Yep.
And the noise it makes, if I was alone in the dark going through a dungeon and I heard that clickety clackety, no. Nightmare fuel, bro.
Out of there.
Big bull and nope. So remember, guys, you go ahead and find that link at the end of the episode description, right there above the podcast support link. Come on in, be part of the show. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, and I want to extend a big thank you to Jaws. Every once in a while, he'll post a page or two from the Homeland graphic novel. I had no idea that this was a thing. And
beautiful.
He posted a couple things. Yeah, the artwork is amazing. So I looked into it. I actually was at a comic book shop. I was talking about it last week. I was looking for it, and I didn't see it. So I went onto the Kindle store, and I saw it on there for $7.99. I downloaded a sample of it. They have at least the first 7, 8, 9 pages or so. Beautiful artwork. Very cool. So I got the sample, but I'm definitely going to have to be downloading the, actually making the purchase of the whole thing soon, because it's really cool.
It's funny how that works sometimes. I think that nothing beats your imagination, right? Where your brain takes you when you read it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having a really well done picture, or if you watch the movie before you read, an idea of what the character should be represented as also does help me. Then when I reread it, it's like,
totally.
I see 90% of what I'm given, and then my imagination tweaks it just a little bit so that it's not just Chris Pine, or it's not just anybody that's a Hollywood actor. It's my version of that character. I like it.
Yeah. Speaking of Chris Pine, we're going to go see the movie tomorrow.
Yep. What is it? Almost 24 hours from while we're doing this recording.
Yeah, I say tomorrow. This episode's coming out on Monday. By then, we should have actually seen it.
In real life, yes. It'll already have been done.
Yeah. Which I think is probably the most magical thing that has ever happened. Not only are we getting our D&D group together for the first time in person,
IRL,
but we are going to see the D&D movie together, and that's something special right there, Jeffrey. I am so excited for that.
Do you think that maybe the group getting together and completing that quest Gets bonus inspiration?
We'll have to. We'll talk about that. All right. So how you doing, Jeffrey?
I've been good.
Good.
Looking forward to the show tomorrow. Had a pretty fun week, just kind of getting all the things in order.
Yeah.
Took a swing at making a curry fish stew. It's
Right. Yeah.
something a little different. Never made one before. It can be a little intimidating, but I always counsel. I almost said counsel people that, hey, look, if it seems like it's outside of your comfort zone and it seems like you just can't quite reach that shelf, get up on your tippy toes and give it a shot. Worst that happens is you have a fun time trying and you make a delicious mess, right?
Right.
Came out pretty good, but I'm looking forward to trying it the next time and improving upon the mistakes that I made. Kind of like when you roll a D&D character out. You had fun the first time, but now I know how I do it differently.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, cool.
How you been doing?
Well, as you know, last week I had strep throat. This week, kind of had a bad reaction. Not a bad reaction. Just a small reaction to the antibiotics. So still recovering from that, but won't get into the details of that. Kind of.
That would be a different kind of podcast.
But yeah, it was a decent week getting to stay home, feeling nauseous the whole time, but got to stay home from work and do some extra studying, got some tests coming up. So that was nice and blessing in disguise because the kids had off due to parent-teacher conferences and for a couple days there. And then they're off next week for Easter break, and I'm like, oh, man, what are we going to do with these kids? So.
Well, yeah, paint a few eggs, throw them on the front yard, make them chase everything around. Don't eat too many of the chocolate bunnies. It's kind of prepackaged. I love me some Easter holiday, man, especially mainly because of the start of that spring when the flowers are coming up. You feel, it's really like you could feel the life in the air. Right. And the contrast to the Underdark, I imagine springtime above the surface is just, you hear the crickets start to chirp, the animals start to get louder. It's breeding season for all of them as they come to look for food and look to continue their successful generations. It's just such a neat moment.
It sounds horrible, Jeffrey. From the standpoint of a drow, it sounds absolutely miserable.
That big, gigantic fiery ball in the sun bringing these lush landscapes.
Man, I was just standing outside right before we started recording here, and I was like, it's sunny out. It's warm. It's probably 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and not Celsius. That would be a hellscape. And it was just, it's a really nice day out there now. Says that it's going to thunderstorm later, but I guess we'll see.
Fun shout out for those of you who can actually make the conversion real quick. Justin's got 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that 7% of our audience comes from Canada, where they use the metric system. So if you guys want to shoot us an email at drizztdoneright@gmail.com or put it in the Discord, if any of you have made it into our dim light squad, let us know what 70 degrees Fahrenheit would break down to in Celsius. We love the interaction.
It's got to be somewhere around, I'm going to butcher this. My guess is 30 Celsius, right around there.
30 Celsius for 70 degrees. Oh, goodness. If we're taking guesses. Oh, man. I know the conversion rate. This is going to be horrible. I'm sorry to everybody. Well, I know how it works because you flip the 5/9 or the 9/5.
Oh, I'm terrible at that.
Subtract.
I taught physics, and I'm terrible at that.
Guys. I'm gonna go Price is Right, and I'm going. What'd you say?
I said 30.
Well, okay. Just making sure I wasn't going too. 34. 34. Okay. That's my bid, guys. Right there. So, let us know where we fall in. Until then, what we're going to do is we're going to cue the roll up in the background, fire up the film, and we're going to give you guys the drizzt of it. This is my dance. I'm getting ready on YouTube. You can see it. It's not much because I'm in a chair.
You're not on YouTube. What are you doing?
Right? Missing these wonderful views of my tousled hair and my bedraggled look. All right, guys, the part of the show where we give you a look at this week's chapter and give you the drizzt of it. In this chapter, we find ourselves in the beginning of an introduction for which there's really no need. Drizzt is to be tutored at the sorcerer in the wizardly arts by Massage of House Hanet. And obviously, Massage has heard of Drizzt. In fact, most of the academy has heard of Drizzt and his scimitars. But this part of Drizzt training would deal more with the dark side of magic, the true power of the Drow. Drizzt allowed the pompous tone of self-glorification from Massage to continue, He understood that the attributes the wizard boasted of being beyond a fighter's grasp were really the very same things that won the duels that Drizzt fought. Zaknafein had taught Drizzt a lot about wizards before he ever entered the academy, specifically their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
They get a lot of prestige in Menzoberranzan because, they light the fairy fire that decorates the houses. It is the Dark Mage. It is the Archmage who lights Narbondel. But beyond that, Zaknafein really had little respect for wizards. Massage continued to look down at Drizzt while explaining that wizards go to school for 30 years.
A mere 30.
just 30 years before they're ready to begin truly practicing. He kind of works that in like a needle, and he's like, you fighters, you only do it for 10 years.
Yep.
And such a lesser skill that you're done and ready to go do it. But a wizard merely starts his training after 30. Like, if he looked down his nose any harder, he would see his belly button. Drizzt bears the insults with ease, and somehow he spends the next 6 months of his training, and it becomes some of his favorite time. He builds up a kind of competition of sorts with Massage, and he proves adepts at learning the magical talent beyond just that which is kind of innate to the Drow. Drow come with innate abilities, and they also come with innate resistances, which is a major weakness for spellcasting. You could put together the most perfect spell, get all your components right, do all the proper dance machinations, and the whole spell could be rendered meaningless if the Drow is innate to it.
Right.
Fizzles out.
Yeah.
It's a firework that has no boom.
Right.
All because of DNA, folks. Science plays a fun role in fantasy. Drizzt enjoys the articles of power that were kept at Sorcerer. In particular, there was a sword that made his hands tingle from the immense magic. I kind of thought it was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine that? Like, I love magic being described as an energy. And I did electrical training, so I know what it's like to grab an object that shocks the living heck out of you.
So is this just like
in a magical sense?
Right. So is this just like a light electrocution that he's getting? Just enough to arc across his fingers as he's holding on to it? Or are we talking like the vibration of a aluminum baseball bat as you hit that softball, like
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit more of an electric current that kind of locks you in there. Yeah. Because especially as you go further into the book, you'll find a sword that is different, and it makes you unable to put it down in a certain way. But that's why I kind of imagine it being locking you in.
Right.
So Massage watched Drizzt with the eyes of a hawk as he progressed. And despite several opportunities for a classic ambush, he heeds the warning of Matron Sinefé and continues to just play the role of a scout. However, not all wizards had the same patience as Massage. There was at least one lurking whose thirst for vengeance could not be slaked. Do you know who was lurking?
Who?
Well, Drizzt finds himself before the Faceless One.
What?
Getting this private invitation was more than a little intimidating. Alton pressed Drizzt as to whether he believed that magic held greater value than mere swords when it comes to combat in a fight. Drizzt, obviously being the younger of the two, the less experienced and heralded of the two, really doesn't want to insult Alton, so he kind of just deflects and humbly tries to sidestep the issue, but Alton presses it playfully, wondering if Drizzt thought that he could defeat a master wizard like himself in battle. I kind of picture him looming over Drizzt as he moves in on his space, and it's kind of just all in the imagination because Drow aren't that big, so I don't imagine that the Faceless One is really standing at 7 feet or anything.
Right.
But stature, I feel he's kind of just looming in at this point.
Right. And Drizzt wants nothing to do with it. He's just backing up come on.
And it's it's ludicrous to him because he's bro, we're not really going to fight, right? I've got a pointy sword. You know what? Just don't. But before he can even point out the ludicrous nature of the question about fighting a master of Sorcerer, because he's here to learn, the Faceless One pulls out a wand and looses a lightning bolt at Drizzt, taunting him as he flees. Drizzt is unable to understand why a master of Sorcerer is attacking him. Drizzt's naive ability to not understand everything's trying to kill him is kind of like living in Australia and thinking that nature is beautiful.
Right.
Alton felt his blood boil as he pressed harder for revenge. Orders from Matron Sinefé be damned. Before Alton could reveal his disguise, he was ambushed by 600 pounds of feline perfection. A huge black panther pinned him to the ground. Guinevere had arrived.
She's here!
Drizzt locks eyes with the Panthers and he could focus on little else. He thought it was odd that a student would show up and attack a master of Sorcerer, but I mean, Menzo Berenzin, a lot of odd things were happening around him all of a sudden. So while he's so focused on this, Alton kind of like slinks back to his feet and slides off the scene. Exit, stage left even. Shout out to, I can't remember the cat now, Snagglepuss from the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Oh,
He knows he's going to have to pay a high price for his foolishness, but he's just defeated. He couldn't help himself. Massage suddenly takes a moment to cleverly play it off and say that, it's just a lesson that was going on. Him and the faceless one, they definitely got together beforehand and wanted to display to Drizzt the weaknesses that can happen in Magic when they're too focused on casting. Yeah, that's what it is. It was a lesson, not an attack.
Right.
Drizzt can just sees right through it. It's like Massage spinning this beautiful tale, and Drizzt is just sitting there like, yeah, sure.
It was a combo. It was a combo Nat 1 deception check and Nat 20 insight check.
Right, like Drizzt sees through his soul. So Massage and Drizzt, they make their way to the tutor's room, and Drizzt marveled over the Onyx figurine. He had never encountered such a wonderful item. Visions of the panther's sleek movements held wisdom to the hunting techniques that Drizzt wished to hone within himself. Massage let them play together, glad that Drizzt was too distracted to actually mention the altercation with Alton.
Mm-hmm.
Massage and Alton were then alone a little while later, and Alton was ready to face the wrath for his mistake, but Massage, he's quick to try to like smooth it all over. I mean, after all, if Matron Cinefe were to kill Alton, then Massage isn't going to get the battle that he'd actually rather have. So Alton was lost in his blues. He's trying to explain himself off. Like, look, man, the reason I did it, and Massage just cuts him off, telling him, I understand. Massage had watched Drizzt closely, and the longer that he spent with him, the more odd he finds this young Drow. He just doesn't belong. His lack of ambition is alien to the Drow culture, yet he succeeds in everything he tries. He could have probably become a wizard if he had chosen that path instead. Drizzt he didn't give up his passion to excel in fighting skills that Drow treasured. He didn't have to make the same sacrifices that Massage felt that he had been put through, that stripped him of his pieces himself. Drizzt had not paid the price. Massage, he shook off the moment and reasoned with Alton that in another 6 months they'd both be graduated. Then they're going to go on patrols together. A convenient favor that they'd be together.
Mm-hmm.
Massage used the fondness that Drizzt displayed for Guinevere to attack through that blind spot. The Panther, after all, did his bidding. The image of claw marks on Drizzt's body put a smile on Massage's face. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you almost feel bad for Massage. I don't really, but you almost feel bad for him because he's watching this guy come onto the scene, and like imagine you're playing high school basketball, mm-hmm. and you've worked your way to varsity in your senior year, and you're doing great, you're doing good. And in comes this guy who's never played basketball before in his life, and he can just throw it through the hoop from the 3-point line, the free throw line. You know what? Sometimes he kicks it off his butt by accident and it falls through the hoop. Everything he does is great. Then it turns out he can actually sing too, like a lark in the middle of the night, and play baseball, and he can act. And the guy doesn't do anything. It's like he's just so gifted,
mm-hmm.
and he doesn't have to make any of the sacrifice, put in any of the work that you did.
Yep.
Now, Massage is a horrible person, so I don't feel bad for him. But you can see there's that little empathy that they're playing on. It's neat. I like it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it makes for a good bad guy when you understand their motivation.
Oh, I like that. Yes, it is
like,
important to be able to see the humanity in all of the characters.
Right.
Yeah. I like it.
So. Cool.
That's all I got, buddy, for the Drizzt of it.
Awesome. Let's take them on into the dim light reel.
I like it.
The dim light reel is where we cast darkness on our favorite parts of the chapter and dim light all of our favorite characters, events, descriptions, and more. And mine this week is probably a lot of people's dim light of this chapter.
What is it? Is it how to cook a Drow steak medium rare?
Did that happen?
I don't think so. I don't even know why you would eat that. It sounds like it really would be kind of gamey. And nope.
It's Drizzt finally uniting with Guinevere. Jeffrey, it only took them half of the first book.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah, that's it, right? What has it been? About 160 pages?
Yeah,
so
how
far?
many pages? Yeah. So, I mean, it finally happened. Drizzt finally got to meet Gwen. They finally met each other. This had to be my dim light this week because I've just been waiting for this moment for way too long, and it really did not disappoint. Guinevere was used in this chapter to save the day when Alton got a little carried away.
Touch.
Yeah, just a little bit. And Drizzt was just so enamored with the sight of Guinevere that he almost literally forgets that the Faceless One ever tried to kill him. Right? Right, exactly. Just, who cares? Like, look at that cat.
No, there's a panther.
So, like, imagine that. Like, someone just tried to kill you. What would it take for you to not be thinking about that, like, right after just getting attempted murdered, right? Like, someone just tried to kill you, and you walk away from that situation, or you're still in that situation.
Right. Still echoing from the trauma, yeah.
And there's something that's just like, no.
I tell you, it would go back to my childhood, probably being a little kid watching the cartoons, and it'd be that giant vault in the McDuck mansion for the DuckTales with Scrooge McDuck when he swims through the gold. You know,
Right.
it would be something of that magnanimous stature.
Right. Or like the Cave of Wonders or something like that.
Oh, yes. Yes, I love that part where you can't touch anything. You have such reverence for all the treasures. Yeah. But it's totally dangerous too.
I could see that. But I mean, it would have to be something huge like that. It could not be something little like, I mean,
go get yourself a soda pop.
It's like, hey, here's a week-long vacation at an all-inclusive. You know, like I don't know if that would even do it.
You just have to show up for the 4-hour presentation.
So perhaps murderous acts they're just more commonplace in Drow culture. So much so that the sight of this muscular magical creature is enough to forget about that situation. I mean, Drizzt has been in Melee Magthir, and now Sorcerer, for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
How many times was he almost murdered? You know, like
you've got to think it started off with Kelnaz right out of the gate, and then people became jealous of him. So it was probably quite a bit,
right?
You know, it's kind of the point where, like, when the arrow misses your head, you just don't even pick your eyes up anymore,
right? So there could be a little bit of that going on. For most normal humans, right? We don't have that many murder attempts on us on a daily basis. But I feel
hopefully, if you do, please hit up the Discord and let us know. I would be amazed.
And
I just want to know.
And get some help, if that's a common thing. So Drizzt becomes enchanted with this big cat's rippling muscles and and the intelligence in its saucer eyes. And if you've ever been to a zoo that has big cats, most people probably have, you can probably relate. There's just something about these big, large cats that they're showing off their immensity. They're just huge muscles as they pace and prowl around.
I mean, look no further than the Lion King to know that people are obsessed with gigantic cats.
Yeah.
You know, they want to touch them. They want to hold them. They want to, like, walk up there and hug them, even though these things are massive murder machines.
Right.
They're like, ooh, pretty kitty, pretty kitty, pretty kitty.
And so we already had discussions on our Discord. If you're not there, definitely jump on. We had discussions on the show as well about Guinevere and how she is supposed to be 600 pounds for those that use the metric system. Yeah, chunky. Tell me about it. For our metric audience, that's about 272 kilograms. And after
that is a beautiful, beautiful shout out to those of our audience who like 7% in Canada. Who can make that conversion? Because I would never be able to.
I figure right around 70% of our audience is in the U.S. So we have
they refuse to do the metric system.
almost 30% are not in the U.S., which means they probably use that 30% probably use the metric system. So anyway,
it's astounding.
So 600 pounds, 272 kilograms is what Guinevere is described as, not in the chapter, but in, the D&D wiki and the fandom sites and everything, and
The
maybe
research that we do.
And so after a quick Google search, I found that male panthers tend to max out around 160 pounds.
About 2/3 of a Jeffrey.
And only about 1/3 of a Guinevere, really, because that's like... yeah, so Gwen is obviously not a normal panther. Gwen is the Andre the Giant version of a panther without sacrificing any of the dexterity. So Massage was relieved that Drizzt stopped asking questions about Alton and instead started asking questions about this cat. Obviously just focused on this cat. This interest gave Massage an idea. He would allow them to spar together, and this was just such a magical moment. I mean, in doing so, the cat was sure to cover up any cuts and scrapes that Alton put there in the first place. But even though this was an attempt to hide those cuts and scrapes, to attempt to hide the fact that Alton tried something here, everyone reading this book was perfectly okay with it.
Oh yeah, this is what you had been waiting for. Like it's like if you were watching the movie, this is where they cue the momentous music change behind it. They slow it down.
Yep.
They capture.
They lock
scene.
eyes and slow motion, bounding across a grass field.
And Ghost, it's the moment where the item of intrinsic value is placed before you, and you realize, there it is.
Yep. So my only complaint is that this sparring match was only 1 sentence long. I think it was actually only half a sentence long. But I mean,
when you think about it, though, it speaks to just the talent of R.A. Salvatore, that somehow he has built this moment up, so emotionally, that when you get it's this character changing moment for everything from here on out. Mm-hmm. And it only takes half a sentence.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you know that when you're writing it, that it's going to go on to be this magnanimous of a moment? But when you reread it, as fans who have done it more than once, it's like you get the tingles. You know what I mean? You're ready. You're like, you were ready at chapter 4, and now it is chapter 15. You've made the journey. Give me the cat.
It's like, finally. So I just imagine Drizzt, around about 130 pounds, sparring with this 600-pound panther, and just, what does that look like? I mean, knowing that Gwen is probably just as dexterous as Drizzt is, I would love to be able to read more about that training session. Just who's dancing around whom? Are they? They're dancing around each other probably. And is Drizzt using the sharp ends of his blades, or he's probably slapping her with the blunt sides just to kind of simulate, if he can even land a hit on her. We don't
Right.
Because I don't know, you imagine he's really dexterous, but so is she. So
it's like playing the belly scratch game with your cat times let's see, my cat's 10 pounds times 60.
Oh yeah. Yep. At least. Yeah.
So if she were 60 times larger than she currently was, and you try to get that belly, and then the handspring close on you, like, ooh,
with
you gotta be careful.
With a 10-pound cat laying on its back, and you're just like, I know if I put my hand on my cat's belly, I'm getting ripped to shreds. Just imagine that times 60.
Though.
Yeah. Oh no, you can't.
Throw your hand in that trap.
Definitely a trap, but you gotta fall for it. So anyway, so many questions about this sparring match, but it was just a long time coming. I was so happy to see that. But that's my dim light for this week. What do you have for us this week, Jeffrey?
Oh man, that's tough to follow. It's like in the British Bake Off, where you just made a beautiful dessert, and now I've got to try to take out something of the oven next. What I've got for you guys there listening at home is Massage the Mentor. I think it's interesting to take a look at this scene that unfolds right as the chapter opens. The last chapter found Drizzt being stripped of his innocence as he found out that the nature of his brother Dinan and the depths that his family will go to advance their station. In this chapter, we find Drizzt falling right into the complex webs that his society is known for crafting. Massage of House Hunnett has been arranged to be his tutor. Drizzt introduces himself, but Massage shakes him off. He knows exactly who he is. Of course he does. Everyone at the academy speaks highly about Drizzt and his prowess with his weapons. But Massage is quick to point out that those weapons are going to be a little help to him here as he learns about magic. the true power of the Drow. A test of the mind and heart. Drizzt kept silent, knowing that the very traits he talked about were the same ones that he used to win his duels. I find this really interesting. What do you think some of those traits are?
Well, I know when I read this, I felt that it was more like his personality traits in that he just didn't really seem like a Drow. He didn't play the part of a Drow. He was more naive. He didn't buy into the Drow culture. That's kind of how I interpreted it. Right.
I get you. For me, I was kind of thinking like focus, determination,
Right.
courage, imagination. The things that make you a good wizard might also make you a good fighter. Like instead of just focusing on the physical aspects for Drizzt.
Yeah.
There's probably a whole lot more, like something simple. But for me, it's like thinking maybe like how a wizard would pronounce a spell correctly, right? It could be similar as Drizzt remembering the proper footwork necessary to execute that double downward parry. Misaj seems a bit blinded by his own pomp and circumstance as a wizard. We're watching this like feeling out process between the two. And Drizzt has shown up for his lessons, and he's kind of curious of who this person is that's been set before him to tutor him. Misaj has been sent to scout Drizzt and report information to help House Annette, so he's wary about the target before him, but he's also a proud and boastful Drow, so he can't help but point out the superiority of magic users, which I feel like is a very magic user thing to do.
Yeah.
It's basically like this underlying character personality trait I feel maybe most magic casters have. Mm-hmm. That little smugness about being above the fray when it comes to a battle and not having to be down in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
Misaj promises to show Drizzt amazing things, artifacts and spells beyond his belief and experience. Drow wizards actually receive quite a high position in Menzoberranzan, second only to the clerics of Lolth. They possess great power, being able to kill from a distance, but, inside, up close, really they have little defense for a sword. Zaknafein had drilled this lesson into Drizzt, and he kept quiet while Misaj prattles on and on about his superiority of station. Drizzt goes so far as to mock deference so as not to upset his tutor. And after all, he's got to get through the lessons so he can be done with Academy and move on. Misaj finally, after all this, gives his name. Right, takes all those points in. Misaj.
And at that point, it's like, I mean, I knew it back when Drizzt first said, like, "Can I know your name?" And I was like, "Right, it's Misaj."
But there's Drizzt listening to this go on and on and on, and it's like that guy comes back, he's like, "Misaj." It's like, bro, yeah, who cares? Why?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to him, but as a reader, it's like, oh no,
right. But, as soon as he gives his name, he also just smugly works in the fact that he's finishing his 30th year at Sorcerer, and he's ready to go out into the world and begin practice.
Right.
Clearly more trained than Drizzt, who's only spent 10 years, after all, learning to be a fighter, which is, a lesser skill, according to Misaj, and to master the being a fighter. Whereas, the wizards are just starting to get a grasp on their true potential.
Right.
Great. Thanks, guy. We find out that actually it's in contrast to how you think it's going to go, Drizzt's time with Misaj is actually enjoyable. He proves adept at learning the lessons that Misaj is going to teach him, and he notices this kind of competition that builds between the two. Drizzt loves to, perfect his craft, and I think that he really kind of builds a camaraderie with other people who are good at their craft. Drizzt almost like foreshadows it for a moment. And he feels like some kind of Misaj might be leading him to some kind of like future conflict. We see that Drizzt has the right read, but it's almost like he still doesn't trust it. Like maybe he's still naive in his nature, right? He sees the eyes of a hawk in Misaj and he senses a predator, but he just kind of acknowledges that there's nothing to really worry about for him because he doesn't think that this hawk is going to be able to swoop down on him. Do you think that this is like overconfidence in his own abilities, or do you think it's more of the like misunderstanding the actual nature of Drow?
Yeah. Definitely my first inkling is it's a misunderstanding. It's a lack of understanding. Just kind of not totally understanding. Because that is a common theme that we've seen with him, is what I'm thinking. But, yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, it's It is. It's interesting, right? Because this is not the first time that there has been a hawk in the hen house, or
Yeah.
not sometimes that there's been a predator on the prowl around Drizzt. He's been, the target of several attempts as
Hmm.
far as attacks, even with his own family. We watched, Vierna come at him,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he's still. I think it's his overconfidence in himself. He believes that his skills are so razor honed that he's capable of deflecting any incoming attack.
Right.
And it's funny because he is sitting there mocking deference, almost like a child to a teacher, in the same scenario,
Hmm.
who's like, yeah, sure, right, everything,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're great, bro. And you don't actually know everything. So there's Drizzt thinking in himself. He's like, whatever, even if you are a threat, I'm good.
I've had so many students like that. Where it's just like, what can you teach me? I'm just like, so much, and they're like, no, you can't. I'm like,
Yeah, and it's that
come on.
that inability to see that. I think sometimes it's Drizzt's overconfidence in his
Right.
own abilities, because he is so talented and gifted in what he does, and he
Hmm.
does work so very hard. But it's almost like, what is it? Lacks the hubris or has hubris. When it comes to his skills, he's just
Hmm.
caught with a blind spot. The same one he's looking at massage is like, oh, you smug guy.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I think that this meeting also as well, though, it really speaks about the character of Massage. We've seen him display this ruthless and cutthroat nature when it comes to bettering his own lot in life. It was his plan to deface Alton so that his life could be easier as he finished schooling.
Hmm.
Do you imagine, like, just the cunning and the barbarity it takes to come up with the idea that I'm going to have you take that vat of acid and dump it on your own face so that I can just get easy A's for the next 30 years?
Crazy. I mean, I don't think Alton had much of a choice.
He didn't. And I mean, credit to Massage, I can't believe I'm saying it that way, of seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it while being able to cover his tracks. That's the Drow way. That's what I
Right.
mean. Like, we've seen him display perfect drowness
Right.
in a
Yeah.
way. After all, it was him who killed his own brother Delbert because he saw an opening and took it, merely for the fact that he felt that he had been derided and treated like an inferior being. Like, he just kind of felt irked when
Yeah.
he told Matron Cinefe, he's like, he treated me like I was, below him. Like, wow. So you killed your brother? Just like, hey, happy Thursday.
I mean, truthfully, you probably are below him, but I mean, that's not the first second boy killing the elder boy that we've seen so far, if I'm
No,
sure that's what the
and
situation was.
that speaks to kind of what you're saying. Maybe murder is just a normal day in the park for Drow.
Right?
It wouldn't be the same kind of park we would think of normally. It's a dark park.
Right. It's a dark park.
He sees that Drizzt is fully aware of how dangerous the warrior that he is. He's not fearful, though. He's calm and calculating. Massage, he feels that he can use his position as a scout in order to find an opening that's going to nullify the strengths that Drizzt possesses. It's just a matter of biding your time and being vigilant. The advantage that he knows that he can't overcome, he feels that he's more than confident he's simply going to find a way around. It's interesting to see somebody for the first time, I think, that really kind of looks at Drizzt and doesn't automatically feel inferior or bestow this feeling of awe or mystique. Because even as Drizzt was being raised and his family elders were looking down on him, they still were like, man, he is talented. Oh
Hmm.
man, he is smart.
Right.
He is different. And here's Massage coming along, and he has paid such a heavy price to be Drow
Hmm.
that he's looking over and he's like, yeah, you're good, but I'm better. And he knows it's not like a matter of one-on-one. It's a matter of finding that intangible, right? That opening where it's like, oh, you know what? You see my cat? Well, then that means you don't see me.
Yeah. Yep.
Clever. Very clever. That's all I got from my dim light, buddy.
Cool.
You want to do a little bit more adventuring?
Yeah, let's take them on into the dungeon delve.
This is my walk into the dungeon move for all our YouTubers.
All right, the part of the show where we link this chapter with our favorite tabletop RPG, we call it the Dungeon Delve, and I'm actually going to slightly continue off of what you were talking about. Your dim light was Massage being the tutor of Drizzt. Well, we eventually found out that in that chapter, when Alton is talking to Massage about Drizzt, Alton kind of questions Massage for hating Drizzt. Just why would Massage have a grudge against Drizzt? House Do'Urden did nothing to offend House Hanet. Massage goes on to say that he has no issue with House Do'Urden. It is only Drizzt that he has a beef with, saying, "He does not belong here. After 6 months by my side, I feel I know him less now than I ever did. He displays no ambition," and so on and so forth. And this quote just got me thinking a little bit about how in D&D games, players' characters, or players themselves, just can kind of get to that point with each other where
it's the bane of so many people's D&D experience who have only tried it once and never been able to go back to it. The fear that a lot of people who haven't tried it is exactly, I think, what you're speaking to here.
Right. Yeah. And so it's something I wanted to talk about a little bit today, because it can lead to some very awkward situations where people's feelings are hurt or they get in real life fights. So I just wanted to talk.
We here at Drizzt Done Right do not condone. Please do not beat up the players physically in your actual D&D games.
Just remember, it is just a game.
It's all fun and love.
Yeah.
Nobody has to lose an eye.
Absolutely. So let's see. I lost my place.
But you did it on key, and that's what's important. That's what's important.
So I wanted to talk about a couple situations that I have experienced where things didn't go so well with the chemistry of the group, and discuss some possible strategies for lessening those type of conflicts. Strategies that I have actually implemented just to try to reduce those. So as many of you are aware, usually when you're the one that gets a D&D group together, you end up being the dungeon master for the group.
Is that actually lawfully how dungeon masters are assigned the role?
If you read it, it's in the Dungeon Master book. In the Dungeon Master,
the fine print.
It says chances are you're the dungeon master if you're getting it says that.
They who ask to create thine group, therefore take upon thy the responsibility to DM.
So as you're preparing to be a DM, especially if you've never played before, there are just a plethora of rules that you need to be familiar with. So many that when I was learning the rules, I didn't really think about the possibility that the group dynamics would be an issue. I didn't think about the fact that people are people, and sometimes people just don't like other people.
We just got an email from Drizzt who said, "Justin, how can you be so naive?"
Oh man, that hurts. So, I don't know how long I was planning a D&D game, or looking into this was back almost 10 years ago now, when I was really looking into the rules. But eventually I managed to get a group of people together. Jeffrey was one of them. And
yep.
I got them together, and we started the Lost Mines of Phandelver module that comes with the starter kit. I allowed
nice and simple.
Oh yeah, nice and simple. I let you guys make up your own characters. The starter kit comes with pre-made characters, but I figured, well, I want my players to express their own creativity, so let them make their own characters. Why not? Can't hurt. Well, in our initial group,
there goes the ominous music. Yes.
Yeah. In our initial group, we had a chaotic evil character, which, I didn't think anything about. And, well...
Can be very fun to play, though.
Oh, no, nothing wrong with it, but yep. I didn't know the repercussions of it, the possible repercussions, being, again, a brand new DM. And then we got another player that wanted in the game. So he ended up joining either session 2 or 3. I forget which. And
I want to say it was 3, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it just wasn't session 1. So we had to try to come up with a way to get his character into the party, right?
Yep.
Well, this was another chaotic evil character. And,
two. Like magnets.
My. And so the first chaotic evil character that was already in the party, he was.
We'll just call him.
Oh, I don't remember what his name was.
No, I was going to shout out a random name, but then I'm like, you know what? The people at home, even if I shout out a random name, they'll be like, that might actually be his name. But go ahead.
Right. So we this first character that was already in the party, he was currently trying to tame a wolf as a pet. Well, this new player came in, and it was right after a combat, from the shadows of the trees, launched an arrow into the heart of the wolf, killing it. Why he did that? He's chaotic evil.
Because people, if you were trying to introduce yourself and make a good impression with a group of people that you find in the forest who look like they may be trying to pet a dog, by all means, I think one of the best ways to say hello is to launch an arrow straight through the heart of that gigantically furry puppers. Why would you do that? I mean, you could see how that would cause conflict.
Yeah, within a couple seconds, we had the one character had his bow and arrow right in the face of this new guy, and it was just like, oh, this is not going well. Like, how is this gonna work? It just
like, you as a DM, that is as a first time DM, we really put you in a blender there. Like, hey, buddy, introduce water to grease.
So not a great start to introducing a new character, but similar situation, totally different game, totally different group of people. One character in this group was motivated to be on this mission because the group was essentially saving this character's father figure. Part
of the mission?
Right. Part of the mission was, I mean, it was the overarching mission at that moment.
Built into the story. Okay.
Right. Like, we escaped jail, we got up out of the dungeon, and we look and we see this character's father figure getting hauled off. And it's like, okay, gotta save him. Okay. And so we all tracked them down and eventually saved him. But then there came this situation where the father figure could have been saved by one character, but the character opted to do nothing. And it was just kind of like, oh,
yeah.
So the character that was motivated by this father figure being alive suddenly lost all motivation and became very hostile toward the other character.
I mean, rightfully so if he's playing his character.
Right, exactly. And so it just led to another kind of awkward situation in real life, which, I mean, yeah.
That stinks too, because one of the things that I think is hard about D&D for some people is to remember that the table is meta and that the game is micro.
Right.
And I'm probably using the term that wrong for the gameplay. But essentially what I'm saying is just because your character is acting one way does not mean that you have to take it personal.
Well,
some people, sometimes, though, you built so much time building it, you fall in love with the character, and then other people squash your hopes and dreams.
Yep.
And it can be hard to just build a bridge and get over that.
Yep. Yeah. So to some of you, these situations may sound perfectly reasonable, maybe even sound fun, and they absolutely can be. In the first example, the players found a way to make it work between the characters. They got on their journey. They got things done. We never did finish that campaign.
No, ironically, though, the one elf that tried to tame the wolf then attacked the other elf because he wanted to sleep in town, but should have been a wood elf. And, chaotic evil, guys, it can be quite the spur of action.
And then the second situation was enough to cause some actual real-life tears that stopped the group from playing again, which is just kind of sad.
Yeah, which, again, we here at Drizzt Done Right podcast would like to say we never condemn trying to make your other party members cry.
Yeah.
D&D should be a fun experience for those who decide to wade into it. Maybe don't break the soul of your competitor.
Now,
of character.
Right. Now, I will say one of my goals as a DM is to make you guys cry. Not from frustration, not from anger, but from like just the sheer beautifulness of the story. Right? Like,
just to sit back like, oh.
I'm looking for those. I want to tug at those heartstrings here and there. So I'm looking for those tears, but I'm not looking for.
You're looking for positive growth tears.
Exactly.
Not trauma flood tears,
right,
where it strips away all remnants of life in the area.
So, Yeah, so it really all comes down to just knowing your group, knowing how they want to play. And I know we talked about that in a previous episode, different ways that you are able to play. You know, do people want to role play more? Do people want to focus more on combat? How does your group want to play? So it's very important to set those expectations ahead of time to make sure that everyone is on board with that, right?
Yep.
So yeah, these type of situations were awkward enough for me that I started taking steps toward making sure that my groups, players and characters, were able to meld a little bit better. And so some things that I did to make sure that the groups were able to meld better was I came up with a rule that was no evil characters. And this kind of might seem a little controlling as a DM, but if you want your characters to roleplay well, like you want them to represent their character well, and you want the group to work together well, it's very important to make sure that your characters at least have a similar alignment. I opted for no evil characters because then, I wanted to run a story that was more good versus evil, as they were a bunch of good guys going to fight the bad guys. I wanted that to be very clear cut. You might be able to run a campaign where they're all evil characters, where it is good versus evil, but you are the evil part, the evil society. That could possibly work too. My only concern with that is you might end up with a Drow society type or stab in the back type situation, so feelings could still be hurt there. Again, it's just important to lay that down ahead of time. Maybe everyone is okay with that. Hey, if I only play 5 sessions with this character, awesome. I'm fine with that. I'm ready to re-roll a new character. Maybe people are okay with that. It's just, I want to make sure that no one's feelings are hurt.
Yeah, it's important to know the rules of engagement before you come together.
Right.
I agree.
It's all about having fun, right? So as long as everyone understands the rules, yeah. Another strategy that I've taken to make sure that the characters meld well, to make sure that they're all motivated to be on this journey together, is as a DM, I was a major part of my players' characters' backstories. I allowed you guys to come up with your own characters. You got to choose the race. You got to choose the class. You got to choose where you grew up and how you grew up, what you did throughout your life up to this point. But then I helped come up with the details that gave them the motivation to basically link them to the journey.
Like a common goal of a sort, like why we wanted to achieve that. I found that very helpful.
Yeah. And so it's almost like running an episode 0. Some people might run episode 0 with everybody, that could work, or you might run episode 0 individually. Now that's a lot of work. Very rewarding to do something like that, but it is a lot of work. Instead of running an episode 0 for each person, I just help them write out a little background to help link them to the story a little bit more. That way I'm able to come up with a story that's much more meaningful to those characters to help keep them on track and help keep them motivated. So these are just 2 simple examples of my attempts to make sure that my games are more enjoyable. Maybe you have something else that you use. So if anyone out there, DM or player, has other strategies for creating a good group dynamic, let us hear them. Get onto the Discord. The link is in the description. That's the invitation to get you onto the Discord. Let's hear it.
Fire us an email, drizztdoneright@gmail.com. I mean, wherever you guys want to reach out, throw the like button, smash the 5-star, give us a review, interact. Love it.
Absolutely.
Well, for me, I wanted to do a little something different. I went and looked at the cantrips and spell casting. And by do something a little different, that's kind of what we always do, because you do one and I do the other. And it's always different. Otherwise, we do the same thing.
Right.
So when they're discussing Drizzt's natural abilities, Massage says that he managed several cantrips and a few lesser spells. So for me, I was going to look at the spell casting dynamic just a little bit, because it can be quite intimidating, honestly, when creating a character. Not all of our people that are in the Dim Light Squad, or not all the people listening at home, are vaunted D&D players with savvy, backgrounds and campaign
Right.
scars. Some of them are kind of new. And when you're just starting out, it can be kind of hard to grasp what you want to do as a spellcaster or really how it works.
Generally, spellcasting is a more advanced class for beginners.
Yeah.
From my understanding. So yeah, if you're new, people go for like barbarians or fighters, but it's definitely worth looking into learning how to use a spellcaster.
It is because
they're very fun.
shoot, man, when you think about fantasy and something you want to play, what's more fun than just sitting about 30 feet away and just bombing fireballs into people like
that's
some
so cool.
kind of Street Fighter attack? Throwing Hadoukens from a distance. Like it's just it's fun to think of.
Absolutely.
So I'm also going to take a peek at how the lightning spell that Alton throws at Drizzt, see how it can sometimes scale with different levels, trying to explain, again, the intricacies of spellcasting a little bit. When you're creating a sorcerer, you're going to start out and you're going to know 2 first-level spells and 4 cantrips.
Yep.
So you'll also have 2 first-level spell slots. A cantrip can most easily be explained as a level 0 spell. What this means is that repeated practice has fixed the spell in the caster's mind and infused them with the magic that's needed to produce the effect over time. So it can be cast at will, without using a spell slot and without being prepared in advance. A Drow has innate abilities that allow them to cast Dancing Lights, Darkness, and Fairy Fire, but other cantrips could be something like Light. What that does is it takes an object and it turns it into a light source for an hour. People who can't see well in the dark can always use light, right? Or you can maybe use it as a distraction. Not all of your cantrips have to be battle-based.
In fact, most cantrips probably aren't really battle-based. Most of them are tiny little visual effects and things like that, but there are some. There are totally some.
Except for the druid over here who plays the Circle of Stars, who has a little flea that sits on his shoulder called Mr. Jiggles. I have Infestation as a cantrip, which allows me to send Mr. Jiggles at you and cause some damage.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that. And then if you're a warlock, what is it? Shoot.
Eldritch Blast.
Eldritch Blast. That's it. Yeah, that's
it's hurling magic.
Yep.
But you could also use something like Mold Earth, right? And that allows you to manipulate dirt or stone into difficult terrain. Or maybe you want to use mending, and that lets you fix things that are broken or torn. There's a lot of uses besides just the combat. If you're building a character and want it to be a little eccentric, these can also become part of your backstory, right? So maybe mending because your character was the son of a cobbler growing up in a small village. Your father made shoes,
cool.
His father made shoes. So you have this innate ability to fix things because you grew up with hands-on experience like that. And that's sure, maybe it's not the most attractive thing off the top of your head, but it is a really cool way to define the character you're building and build to the story you've created.
What if could you mend bones together? I think it's an inanimate object. I'm pretty sure.
You could, if you ask the necromancer, he could animate them. But I think really what you'd be doing is sewing bone to bone, which you could do. It would craft a bigger bone, but not mending in the way you're thinking. No, I don't think you could fix a broken.
Yeah, I don't think
I imagine taking the T-Rex skeleton and mending it into a large bone javelin. You could do that. Sew it together.
Mending. Let's see. It's an object. Yeah, so
is a bone not an object?
I mean, I feel like that's classified as creature for game purposes. But yeah, that just crossed my mind. I was like, why can't you mend bone and flesh? But
so let's take a moment to mention those spell levels again, right? So first level wizard starts with 2 spells. You're going to have 2 first level spell slots to use them. When you cast that spell, you must expend a spell slot in order to use it. Mm-hmm. So you get 2 uses and 2 spells. You can use one spell twice or one time each spell. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, when you level up to level 3, you're going to know 4 cantrips still, but you'll have learned 4 spells. You learn a new spell every level. A wizard allows you to then also remove a spell that you've learned and learn a new one.
Right.
You'll have 2 level 1 spell slots, 2 level 2 spell slots. So this means you can now cast 4 spells, but you have a difference in how you can use those spells.
Right.
This will grow as you continue to level, but I wanted to explain the difference in the spell slot levels just in case it's a little confusing for everybody. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that lightning bolt spell that I mentioned earlier. It's probably what Alton used when he tried to murder Drizzt. Lightning bolt is a 3rd level evocation. Now, what that means is that your character has to at least, at a very minimum, be a level 5 wizard because you have to level up to get the spell slots unlocked, like I was mentioning earlier. In order to do that, when you hit 5th level, you get a 3rd level spell slot. You can learn those spells. Just because you have the necessary spell slot, however, does not mean that you need to use that level spell in that level spell slot. You can cast a level 1 as a level 3. You don't need to just use level 3 in a level 3 spell slot.
Yep.
Some spells will scale with damage. So in order to continue to use this example and kind of hammer it home a little bit, let's imagine that Alton is a level 9 wizard. Okay. So he'd be able to now use a level 5 spell slot, 5th level spell slot.
Okay.
So lightning bolt is a level 3 spell.
Level 3.
Yep. So he casts that, but he casts it at level 5.
Okay, so that's 2 levels above
level 3. Yes.
Yep.
Now, every spell slot he goes above level 3, that lightning bolt is going to level up and add 1d6 of damage.
Okay.
So since he used level 5, it's 2 levels, he will add 2d6 to his overall roll for damage. So that's why sometimes you will use a lower level spell at a higher level spell slot. Some higher level spells, they're really amazing. They can do amazing feats. They can do incredible damage. However, sometimes, it's an ordinary spell at a higher level that's actually going to help your party a little bit more. You think about it, maybe your party just got done fighting this incredible end encounter of this giant boss, right? And you have a tank in your party. I mean, this rock solid monster that just takes damage, right? Let's call him Rock.
Yeah.
Okay? Shout out to our Rock the Barbarian. And the Rock's just taking damage so that your spell can, your group can just throw in damage from afar and be okay. So now Rock's beaten, banged up. What you can do is you can take a level 1 spell. You can do something like Healing Word. And you can add a d4 for every level above level 1 that you cast it at. So this means if that you burn up that level 5 spell slot using a level 1 spell like Healing Word, you're going to add 4d4 to your healing roll. That means you could get a max of 16 more points of health.
That's crazy.
For that spell. So it definitely can be helpful. Something that you want to keep in mind, and I didn't plan this out when you had done your dungeon delve, but when you talk about the integrating with the group, sometimes it's about a balance between group and individual. It's an important thing to consider when building your character. The most incredible individual may not last as long in the dungeon as a group of several sturdy souls with a common goal. I guess an easy way to think about it for me is that it's important to think of how I can integrate as well as how I can annihilate.
Jeffrey, I had to do some quick math. I got my calculator out.
Excellent.
To get that total of 16 extra points by rolling 4d4.
Yes.
It's about a 0.4% chance of that happening.
So you could probably still do that before winning the lottery, but you're saying it's in that realm.
I was so hoping you were going to be like, so you're saying there's a chance.
I mean, that is what makes rolling dice so miraculous, is because sometimes when they hit, man, you feel like that sun has hit you in the face.
You feel like you hit the lottery. When you see it, when you roll a D20 and you see a 20 roll up, it's just like, oh, man.
It makes you want to do a little gospel dancing and just jig down the aisle.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank you for listening. Remember that if you like the show, smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Give us a 5-star rating. Do what you do. All right, we would love to hear any feedback that you guys have. We would really appreciate it. Also, make sure that you're getting the most out of this podcast. Pick up a copy of the book and read along with us. But remember, if you don't have time to read, try listening to the audiobook. You can listen when you're commuting, just like I do. You can listen while you're at work if your job allows for it. You can listen at the gym, on a walk with your dog, or even while you're out fishing. Jeffrey, today is the first day of trout season in PA.
Excellent. I did not know that.
I really miss my fishing days, but once you have kids, fishing is totally different.
Oh, I always think of fishing as a fun thing to do, and then I go fishing, and inevitably I sit there and watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're...
And unless you're catching things, it is a lot of watching.
Well, you got to be okay with that. And, I mean, pre-kids, I was okay with that, but once with fishing with kids is just not as fun.
No, because then when it goes quiet and you start to enjoy yourself and get lulled into that sense of complacency, you know somebody is doing something wrong and dangerous somewhere.
All right, so when you've read...
Spidey senses.
When you've read the next chapter, let us know what you thought of the chapter. Shoot us an email. You can reach out to us at drizztdoneright@gmail.com, or even better, log on to our Discord. Discord?
Yep.
That's what it is.
It's a Discord link.
Onto our Discord. Join in on the ongoing discussion. The invitation is in the podcast description. So jump on and say hi. We would love to hear from you.
Oh, it's so much fun when you guys send us emails or just reach out and interact with us. I love it.
Yeah.
It's always like, kind of getting a snow day release from school. You're in there and you got the doldrums going on. And you're like, 6 more hours. Let me watch that.
There's something new.
And then we run to it real fast. I feel like I can make a formal announcement right here at this point. Yep. Cue up.
The show is ending. Oh, man.
No. We've hit the halfway point. We're going strong, guys. April Fools. We're recording on April 1st. Nice. So, I mean, when we hit the halfway point, at the beginning I had a pretty simple goal. If we were able to string together enough shows to get to this point, then I'd reach out to R.A. Salvatore and send him an email. I'd let him know that the show exists. Say that we're big fans, basically just say thank you, right? Yeah. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Totally.
It was... Because, I don't know about everybody else at home, and maybe people love to prepare things. What I did was I sat down, I wrote out an email, then I went back through it to make sure I didn't spell anything wrong, and I sent it away, and then I stopped and went, what did I do?
Man, you were done in like 10, 15 minutes. I think that would have taken me 5 hours.
Yeah, man, as a communications major in college, I can sure put words in front of one another, but they don't always make sense. So I got to say that, if a cease and desist letter delivered by a caravan of lawyers shows up, then I apologize and take full responsibility. However, I feel like I'm joking because, it would be neat. I thought it would be neat to just reach out and say thank you. I don't think he's going to get mad about anything.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Without his creation, we wouldn't be able to be here sharing this forum with all of you. 17 countries tuning in, listening to this show. Frankly, I'm shocked more than 17 people ever bothered to click play, but as it's grown, I wanted to share that feeling, right? I like to share it with you guys. We like to share it with each other. We have the Discord. We just continue to keep that ball rolling. And in that idea, I thought, maybe Mr. Salvatore gets the email. Maybe he puts a little smile on his face. And if nothing more ever comes of it from that, win-win, guys. I think It's neat to be able to just share that spark of togetherness that he helped put together the fertile ground that we're growing from.
Yeah.
It's a nice description. Guys, remember, wrapping it up, we got the link. It's included in the episode. If you want to donate, help support the show, squirrel up $1, throw it through the internet. It's never required. It's always admired until we see you guys again. Farewell. Be fair. Play well.
Play fair, be well.
It's only fitting I end it backwards.